Hello and welcome to Spooning with me, Mark Wogan. Each week I am joined by a very special guest where I will be challenging the foods they think they love and the foods that they think they hate. Here at the Mount Street restaurant, executive chef Jamie Shears will be cooking up a whole range of different things and they will be eating them blindfolded. It is my enormous pleasure today to welcome what can only be described as a culinary legend to the spooning table, none other than Michel Roux. Welcome, Michel. How are you?
I'm really good. A little bit of trepidation.
we will be nice to you, out of respect to you and what you represent to the industry and all those various things. But can we start at the beginning? Because we want to get to know you a bit more. So you grew up here.
Yeah.
I mean, your parents moved here in the 50s?
So 59.
59.
Yeah, I was born here in Kent, in Pembury Hospital, and therefore have dual nationality, French and English. But so I like to. Well, I was born here in 1960, but brought up as a French baby and child because my parents had literally just arrived in this country. So my first language actually was French as a baby. And when I went to primary school in Kent, I didn't speak any English. So it was really interesting childhood.
But reading up on you a bit, we sort of had a similar experience as children, which is, despite what your father did for a living, your influence on food was from your mother.
Oh,
and, you know, same with me. I mean, Dad was very busy, he worked all the time, you know, and as we both know, our chosen industry of hospitality requires quite a few hours if you want to get anywhere proper.
just a few.
But I mean, was he an absent figure, would you have said?
So up until the age of 7, no. He was there every day, and because he was working in private house, and so the hours were not sort of crazy.
Yeah. Who did he work for?
So it was for the Cazalet family.
Yeah.
And he was working in the Fairlawn estate. And the Cazalet family were horse trainers to the Queen Mum. And so it was the kind of Downton Abbey upstairs, downstairs scenario. Private chef, and Mum was the only other person in the kitchen helping.
The only other person allowed?
Well, okay.
But was he stern in a kitchen, your father?
Oh gosh, yes,
yeah,
very stern.
Because I mean, it's important to explain how important him and his brother were to food in this country, and what they brought to this country was extraordinary, and the influence that they've had in pretty much all the restaurants we know. They sort of came here and they set the standard. Was that their intention?
I think my father saw a massive gap in the market because, I mean, the food scene back in the 60s, 70s, was dire. And I think that Dad saw an opportunity. I mean, he was a very canny businessman. And so Uncle came over in 67 and they opened up the Gavroche. And it's from then that I then had an absent father because, as you know, opening up your own business in the hospitality industry especially, you're working all hours.
Yeah, 16, 17 hours a
it's
day.
Incredible.
With Sundays off, if you're lucky, and those are spent asleep.
Exactly. Dad was sleeping all day Sunday and I hardly saw him.
Yeah. I mean, but that's my childhood memory, because Dad was doing a breakfast show. He was always asleep on Saturday.
Yeah, but that's it.
But he started out as a pastry chef.
Yeah, both my father and uncle started out as pastry chefs, and that's what I ended up doing as well. When at the age of 16, when I said to my dad, look, I don't want to go into university or anything, I just want to start work and I want to be a chef. And he said, right, okay, what you need to do is start by being a pastry chef first. And doing a pastry apprenticeship teaches you a certain discipline and rigors and how to use a recipe properly, and sets you up, I think, in the industry far better.
Well, I think it's that thing, isn't it, that pastry work and or baking is a science, whereas cooking involves feel and intuition,
but
without the sort of baseline or the foundations, cooking can go awry.
Indeed, and it's exactly that. Pastry is a science, and if you're a couple of grams out, a recipe won't work.
Whereas I'm amazed by stuff like Bake Off and what amateurs can do.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I haven't got time to watch it, sadly. But yeah, no, it is great, and I think it's fabulous that we see on television now all these shows. I mean, I did MasterChef Professionals for many years, and I think it's wonderful because it is a way of communicating and inspiring and getting that message across. That food is not just about what's on your plate, and it's not just energy. There's far more to it.
But you were the first professional chef or holder of a Michelin star to host MasterChef for professionals. And I always remember when that series first came out, I mean, quite frankly, how bad some of the professional chefs were. I mean, with the greatest of respect, they're turning up, but you're like, my good God, this person can't cook at all. Yeah. How did you manage that?
Or can't open an oyster, or can't do this, that, or the other. And it's that was tough. Those first few series were tough. But I think it was probably because it was just launching. It was the beginning, and a lot of professional chefs didn't really think it was worth their while entering. But now you look at it, and every professional chef, young professional chef, wants to be on there because they see it as a wonderful opportunity.
But what I've also noticed is that the sort of demographic of those chefs, they're not, I mean, because, we've spoken to Tom, we've spoken to Matt and other chefs on this show, and the majority of them started out coming from working class backgrounds. Yeah. I mean, I started in kitchens because I made quite a mess of my education and couldn't get a job anywhere else. And also had a love of food instilled to me from my mother. But now you look at these kids and you can sense that I would say 50% of them are probably privately educated. They come from nice middle class families. They're not, it's sort of stopped. I always say when I started in the industry, which was in 1987, it was thieves, lunatics and drug addicts, of which maybe I was one of those.
Yeah, but you see, I think that's a great thing because it shows that actually hospitality is not just for a certain couche of society. It's for everybody. I mean, there was a time where you'd get to the age of 16, school leaving age, and if you were pretty crap at it, you had a choice: the armed forces or catering. Yeah. And I didn't fancy the army. But that's changed now, and quite rightly so. You said that a lot of people are looking at hospitality industry as a proper profession, and that's amazing. That's fantastic.
But if you look at the people who sort of, for example, came through the Gavroche, and the alumni of the Gavroche are quite impressive in terms of people who are very significant in the industry now, whether it's Gordon Ramsay or Marco Pierre White, or I mean, the list is endless of people who went through there because it was the place to go and work. You had, if you wanted to get anywhere, you had to work there. Yeah. And it got its first Michelin star in 1974.
So the first Michelin star would have been in the 74, I think it was 74, 76.
Which was the first in the country.
It was the first Michelin guide in the country. So
yeah. And then only 3 years later, it gets its second. Yeah. And then, I think, was it 5 years later, it gets the third.
In 81, 81 or 82,
Which set it apart from anything else. So if you were an aspiring chef,
that was the place to go.
And how long was it before, as the son of, you were allowed even in that kitchen? Because I would imagine there was a sort of, given your father was a man of standards and precision and all that sort of thing, to allow his son in and it not seem like nepotism.
Yeah.
What did you have to go through to be allowed in that kitchen?
Hell. I mean, I went back to Le Gavroche in I think it was 87. And took over, I would say, in '89, although officially the reins were passed on to me in 1990 or 91. Excuse me. But I think it was so difficult for Dad to let go. You know, it was his baby at the end of the day. And so whatever I wanted to tweak or change, he would tut and he would say, well, I'm not sure about that, I'm not sure about this. So it was very, very difficult really to impose my sort of my way of working and my sort of style. My style wasn't too different from Dad's, because at the end of the day I was brought up in, you know, completely influenced in my love of French gastronomy and you know, the classics. But my cooking definitely uses a lot less butter and a lot less cream than him.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you know, as we know, fat equals flavour.
Absolutely.
But yes, I mean, you saw over the years, because I was lucky enough, because it was my dad's favourite restaurant. That and your uncle's restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he was quite frankly a regular, because he loved his food. And he was a man who wasn't shy of over-nourishing himself, I think we can say. But you saw the food develop, and it did become lighter over the years.
Yes.
Because I think people's palates and tastes change. But your dad, in terms of the standard that he set, it's quite interesting if you talk to or you read any of the books of the famous alumni as to, he was tough.
Oh, he was.
He was tough. And kitchens back then were much tougher.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they're much kinder places now, wouldn't you say?
Goodness.
But I think because we all came up in that idea that, you know, I worked for a time at a place that will remain nameless that held a Michelin star. It was a brutal environment. You know, you would get, you know, if you were in the way, you get a hot pan pressed on your arm, or you know, or that kind of thing, and rigorously abused. And which was probably different in your restaurant, but because it was run by an Englishman, any of the French kids in there got a really hard time.
Oh,
you know, really hard time, which I would imagine was sort of maybe the reverse in Gavroche.
Not really. I mean, we've always had a very, very mixed staff. I mean, it's been from all over the country, British, and Dad was very, very keen on having British chefs in the kitchen right from the off, because of his values of passing on his knowledge and inspiring the next generation of British chefs, which we continue to do, and especially through the Roux Scholarship, you know, as an example. And I think, you know, going back to what you were saying about back in the 70s and 80s, how the food scene was totally different to now, and my father and uncle did revolutionize that, and they did. Absolutely. They were the first ones to really sort of begin this wonderful gastronomy capital city that London is now.
And it is extraordinary, the breadth of cuisine and the standard of eating that is available in London. And actually, and it has permeated out across the country. I mean, I'm talking to Tom about, you know, where pubs have gone.
Oh, gosh.
And the fact that you can go into a pub and on the menu there will be tempura of something, and then, you know, a Japanese inspired dishes, Indian inspired dishes, you know, this. So we've sort of, and it does play to that sort of, you know, almost days of the empire, that we have so many different influences in this country, but we've sort of adapted it. And we've found it's when you talk about British cuisine.
I was just about to say, yeah, British cuisine, it's a melting pot, which is wonderful, and it should be celebrated.
Now, the Gavroche, you have taken a big decision, which is that it is ceased. What? How did we arrive at that? Because I mean, obviously, it's an institution with so much attached to it.
Yeah, 57 years.
Big decision to close it.
Yeah, that major decision. But how many people get to take a decision like that on their own accord? Yeah. So, you know, that was part of the feeling behind it, that it's my decision, not somebody else's decision. The the lease was coming to an end, which was part of the reasoning behind it. My age, 63. I need to take my foot off the gas pedal, as it were. My daughter having her second child as well, so I want to be a granddad. I want to be, look after my grandchildren, possibly a little bit more than I looked after my daughter, and definitely more than my dad looked after me. I want to be there for them, and just a host of lots of other different things that I'm saying. Do I really need to prove anything else in the restaurant scene in London? And the simple answer to that is no.
But it is, it's the decision to do it has been greeted with both sadness and celebration, which is nice. So prior to coming on the show, you answered our legendary food questionnaire about your food loves and your food hates. And it always amazes me, particularly with chefs, they always have one little weird thing. You're like, why in God's name do they eat that? What is wrong with them, given what they do for a living? And I have it here now. And in its raw form, it comes as that, which is a canister of Bird's original custard powder. Now, this is a man who has probably made endless crème anglaise, or as we like to call it here, custard. And you chose that as one of, it's essentially your guilty pleasure, isn't it? So Jamie Shears, the chef here, has made you up a bowl of this. There we go. It's warm.
Oh, it is as well.
But it's
got that wobble. Look at that.
The wobble on that is bizarre, isn't it? It's got a certain kind of look. Oh dear, can we see that on camera? Look at that. Look at that. Oh, it's an unpleasant but somehow comforting wobble.
To me, it's comfort. Because
grab a little biscuit. We shall have a dip. We shall have a dip, the two of us. So, what is it about this?
So, I'll tell you exactly what it is. When I was a tiny little
God,
nipper,
it's set. It's set solid. This. It's kind of, you could wear it. Oh my God! I can't.
There we go.
There we go.
So, when I was in Fairlawn, in Kent, as a child. When it was busy, Mum and Dad were busy in the estate, cooking for the owners of the estate. I was looked after by a lady called Etty, and she was from the Valleys. She was Welsh, and she was the headmistress at the primary school, and she would look after me. And she would make me great English puddings, crumbles, pies, spotted dick, things like that, and always served with Bird's custard. So that is why I love it, because it just brings me back to childhood and to great memories of being looked after by this wonderful lady.
Now, have you ever cheated in the restaurant and used it as a creme patissier in a beautifully crafted choux bun? Because it could pass for creme patissier, couldn't it?
Oh, that's good, isn't it? That is really good.
It's so good, isn't it? Because you can be as snooty as you like about it, but that tastes great.
I love it. Don't tell anyone, right?
No.
Our secret.
Oh,
I haven't used it at a Gavroche.
Maybe when you're going on tour, it can be the Bird's custard special in your pop-ups. But that's for you to take home, just in case you haven't got any at home.
Original custard. And it hasn't changed for God knows how many years, and it's still the same stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lovely.
Now, talking of at home, your new book, Michel Roux at Home, I've had a look at this. I've got to admit, I haven't had time to cook one of the recipes yet, but my wife, who is, she is an imbiber of what can be described as food pornography. And she's flickers. When she picks up a book, she's like, we've got to cook that. Yeah, look at that one. But there are, given what the Gavroche is famous for, there are dishes in here that you would go, really? He eats that? Mm-hmm. Sausage, pea, and potato casserole, for example. Which, looks fantastic in the book.
But this is Michel Roux at home. And it is genuinely the dishes that I do cook at home. All the recipes are only one page, 1 page long, very few ingredients, and it really
Very
is
few ingredients for a French chef.
true. But it's all about very, very simple food, very sort of achievable as well.
Because what number book is this now?
Oh, this is book number 7.
Yeah. But it is a lovely book, and there are phenomenal recipes in it, and I highly recommend that you go and buy this if you want to cook really good stuff at home. Are we going to see more of you on TV as a result? Because you sort of backed away from that a bit, TV, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. At one stage, I was on, every day of the week and on 2 different channels, and I thought, no, this is just not right, because I don't want to end up being a celebrity chef and known for my TV work as opposed to my work at the Gavroche. So I did back off a bit.
But now that that's sort of
parked,
is there going to be more? Because I think, someone of your caliber being seen cooking that sort of level of accessible food, I think is really encouraging to people who necessarily aren't that confident at cooking. Yeah. Because if I might pay you a compliment, when I watch you cook, it is a beautiful thing to watch. In the same way, I always talk about Gary Rhodes and his hands and how they moved around food and how beautiful that was. Yeah. You do have the same thing. And I don't know whether it comes from being a pastry chef and that preciseness, but it's the precision of your hands on the food guides you, from my perspective, as to how you should handle food. And you show it some reverence. You don't just throw it around.
100%. I mean, that was one thing that on Masterchef Professionals that I always picked up on. It was the way the chefs handled the food. I mean, even how they peeled a carrot or picked up, the food from the bench. It had to be done in a particular way with respect. And that's really important. But more TV, yes, absolutely. I've got a few things in the pipeline for the year. So
have you changed the answer phone message to, I'm not available right now, but whatever the answer is, whatever the question is, the answer is yes. No. I'm available and free.
I'm not that desperate, honestly. No.
Well, look, we've come to that time in proceedings, Michel, because we have, with the help of Jamie Shears downstairs, executive chef here at the Mount Street restaurant, created you a couple of spoons to try based on your food loves and food hates. Okay, so it's time for you to don the spooning blindfold.
Right.
Here we go.
What do I get first?
Well,
love or hate?
I can't divulge. You've got to describe to us. Right, so I'm just going to bring this one in to the fore here now.
All right. Okay.
And uncloche it for the people at home.
All right. Okay.
And I'm going to feed this to you.
Oh, you got. Oh,
yeah.
Right.
I'm going to feed it to you, and it's going to be an open wide because it's.
You tell me when.
It's a good size spoon. Open wide now, nice and wide. In we go, and just describe to us what you're tasting, what the textures are, flavors.
Wow.
What have we got there? Well, it's obviously nice. Any words to go with it, Michel? Is it because we've removed sight, so it is difficult to know, isn't it? Well, so what do you think you've got there?
I like it.
Good. That's a start.
Lovely texture, nice bit of crunch on there, served on a toast. A little bit of mayonnaise on there, I think, and it's got some nice acidity. There's protein there, definitely. I'm thinking it could be offal, maybe veal tongue, and maybe a sauce grébiche on top of it. But whatever it was bloody tasty.
Right, blindfold off. It's time to reveal. That is a deviled kidney on toast.
Was it kidney? I knew it was offal.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for another one.
Yeah, no. It is they are your spoons. They are your spoons. So this was based on one of your, because when you answered one of the questions about your food loves, it was about offal, and you raised a really important point, which was respect for the animal, and that we should eat every part of the animal. And I think that's famous chefs like Fergus Henderson promoted nose to tail eating, but the reality is the French had always done it anyway.
Absolutely. I was brought up on offal, tripe, which I adore, and Dad adored tripe as well. In fact, one of the last things I cooked for Dad was Try.
And how did you cook it? Because most people go, that's cow stomach. I'm not going anywhere near that.
It's so good when it's cooked properly. It's delicious. I cooked it with tomato sauce, onions, and lots of spices in there. But no, kidneys I really enjoy. Kidneys, tongue, you name it. I mean, we used to squabble as kids over the tip of the tongue.
Can you imagine kids today going, I want the tip of the tongue. I want it.
Yeah. But it is really important. And, as I said, and I'm on record saying it, if we take the life of an animal, we should respect it, to the very end, nose to tail, eat everything. And there's so much pleasure that can be had from deviled kidneys or
But it is, I think, it's something that has fallen out of fashion. And there is a need, I think, for chefs of your caliber to educate people as to how to cook, how to eat. When the world is on a budget, what you can do with a tongue is
absolutely
create delicious food. But people are like, oh, tongue.
But they'll go and buy cheap sausages.
I know.
And there's a lot worse than tongue in those cheap sausages.
Exactly. As we say, lips and arseholes in a Durex. But there we go. That, I couldn't agree with you more, but it is time for your second spoon now. So back on with the blindfold.
That was really delicious, by the way. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Out of the way.
Right, okay, blindfold back on.
Blindfold on, are you secure?
I can confirm that I can't see a bloody thing.
We'll bring in the next one. And there we have it.
Oh dear. Right, what have we got?
So, open wide, here we go. Now, what have we got there?
Oh, oh Jesus. Oh, it's a bit slimy and bitter. The lovely toast. The toast is nice.
So I can take the blindfold off.
It's got a familiar texture to it that I think it's okra, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It was your food hate, which is okra. We tried to disguise it, so we deep fried it in tempura and then put a lovely curried mayonnaise with it, but you saw right through it.
Yeah, the curried mayonnaise is rather nice.
What is it about okra?
With texture, and I find it's got a slightly bitter aftertaste to it. And I've tried it in 101 different ways, even raw, sliced raw in a cold slaw or whatever, and it's just never done it for me. It's just never.
I mean, to be honest, I agree with you. I mean, my whole principle is there is no such thing as a bad ingredient. Outside of a religious belief or a medical condition, there is no such thing as a bad ingredient. Maybe with the exception of okra.
Now, I ate the second spoon of kidney. I'm not going to eat that one.
No. Yeah.
You can have that one.
Johnny can have that. That's right up your street, isn't it, Johnny? Delicious. Yeah. And also, you mentioned hating green beans, which, as a Frenchman, I mean, is it the squeaky?
Yeah, it's. Yeah, you know what I think it is as well is, as a kid, I was brought up that you had to finish everything that was on your plate, and Mum and Dad were very, very strict. You're not allowed away from the table until you finish every single morsel. And I think that psychologically just did it even worse. I hated them even more, and I'm still not a huge fan of them.
But I mean, sautéed in a little shallot with some nice butter,
lots of garlic, mask the flavour
exactly.
a bit.
But it is that because no one in my family likes them because of how they squeak on your teeth.
They do squeak.
They squeak, and I quite like them. I don't mind them. But that's just me. A massive culinary legend thanks to Michel Roux for taking part today, and his book, Michel Roux at Home, is out now to buy. And make sure you buy it because it is really, really good. I will be back next Thursday with another guest who will be eating the food they love and the food they think they hate, albeit blindfolded. Massive thanks as ever to Jamie Shears and the team here at the Mount Street restaurant. And if you like what we're doing here, you can follow us at Spooning with Mark Wogan across all your usual social media channels. And of course, we have our own YouTube channel so you can watch us as well. So until next week, stay beautiful.